Welcome to the teaching learning session of sociology. In our last lecture, we discussed about class conflict theory of Karl Marx and concept of alienation given by the Karl Marx. We started discussing about Emile Durkheim and we discussed somewhat the biographical sketch of Emile Durkheim. Today we'll continue with Emile Durkheim. A quick recap of the last of the previous lecture. We'll start from Emile Durkheim. Emile Durkheim was born on 15th of April 1858 and died on 15th of November 1917. Emile Durkheim was a French sociologist, and according to Durkheim, it was possible to study sociology scientifically. We can do the scientifically study of society, and this scientific study of society, he called it sociology. Auguste Comte, as we all know, is the father of sociology, but it is because of the efforts of Emile Durkheim we are able to study sociology as a subject, right? Emile Durkheim, it was the credibility of establishing the sociology as an independent subject goes to Emile Durkheim. As I told you, Emile Durkheim was born on 15th of April 1858 in France, in a small town of France called Epinal. Right? His father was a spiritual reader and a religious teacher in a Jewish community. So, as his father was a spiritual teacher, he grew up in a family with a high focus of morality and discipline. His surroundings were like that. But he gave up Judaism and Christianity. According to Emile Durkheim, religion cannot provide answer to the problem of modern world. Although he gave up Judaism and Christianity, but he worked on religion and published a work. His work on the religion has been published. It was a wonderful work. But he retained an interest in the intellectual interest of religion and morality throughout his academic career, right? Durkheim joined École Normale Supérieure for higher education in France. Initially, he was interested in psychology and philosophy, but later on he moved to sociology because, according to Durkheim, this sociology is more important, more rational, scientific, and practical in understanding the philosophical question. We can get the answer through sociology. Durkheim was influenced with neo-Kantian scholars like Renoir and Barthes. Barthes thinking influenced Durkheim. Why Barthes influenced Durkheim? Because according to Barthes, the subject matter of each discipline should be distinct, and that's what the Durkheim did. According to him, if we want to study sociology, there should be a distinct subject matter for this sociology. The subject matter should be different. We'll discuss it in our later part. Durkheim was influenced by Renoir's commitment to rationalism, scientific study of morality, and secular education. Right? Scientific study of morality and secular education, according to Durkheim, it is possible to study the society scientifically. As we can study the natural sciences scientifically, we can study the society scientifically. There are certain rules through which we can study the society and can generalize the findings, right? Durkheim was also influenced by historian Faisal de Colligans. Why he was influenced by him? Because he advocated the scientific methods and laid stress on importance of religion and social life, and Durkheim worked on religion, right? In 1882-87, Durkheim taught philosophy in state-run secondary school near Paris. He started his career as a school teacher, right? And while he was working with a school, he decided about his doctoral thesis, and he decided that he will work on the relation between individualism and socialism. According to philosopher, whether it's a Herbert Spencer or any other philosopher, individualism is more important. They have given they according to them, individual efforts are more important, but Durkheim, according to Durkheim, society is important than the individuals. Society matters a lot. Society's will or society consciousness is important than the individual's will. So he decided that he will work on the relation between individualism and socialism. He later focused on the relation between individual and society. As I told you, he was very much influenced by a French political scientist, Montesquieu. According to Durkheim, Montesquieu is a forerunner of sociology, right? Why he was influenced by Montesquieu? He was influenced by the political thinker Montesquieu, because he wanted to introduce this scientific comparative approach to study the social and political institution. Because of his approach to study this scientific and comparative approach to study of social and political institution, as and even Durkheim was of the same side, ki we can study this society scientifically, right? And finally, he finalized his topic of his doctorate, that he will work on the relation between the individual personality and social solidarity, right? Individual personality or social solidarity, which one is important? He had completed his draft of his dissertation in 1886, and ideas subsumed in it were incorporated in his first book, The Division of Labor in Society. So, the book published by Durkheim, The Division of Labor in Society, is actually his dissertation, right? In England, Adam Smith, an economist, had written a century earlier a path breaking book, The Wealth of Nation. This book was written by Adam Smith in 1776, and this book provided a theory of division of labor. On the basis of this book, he developed a theory of division of labor. Durkheim developed a theory of division of labor, right? It helped in increasing production efficiency and wealth. This revolutionary idea, that is division of labor, was given a social meaning by Durkheim. Although division of labor was there, but Durkheim has given the special meaning to division of labor. He discussed the functions of divisions of labor. Why is it required? The causes of division of labor, forms of divisions of labor, the abnormal form and normal form of division of labor, right? Not in economic, but in the social field, in society itself. It is not related only to the economics, but it is related to the social field in society itself, right? Durkheim explained the methods of this study in the book, The Rules of Sociological Methods, right? How can you study, how can you explain that method, how you study something scientifically? There must be the rules, and these rules have been described by the Durkheim in the book, The Rules of Sociological Method. In this book, he defined the nature of social facts. He laid down the rules for their observation, recognition of normal and pathological, for explanation of social fact. What is social fact? Social fact is nothing but the things. We'll discuss about the social fact in detail when we'll discuss the unit 6 of BSOC 133 social facts. Now you just understand what is a social fact. Social fact is nothing but the thing. Your language could be a social fact, institution of society is a social fact, right? Your behavior, your beliefs, they all are social facts, the things which you study. So in the book, The Rules of Sociological Method, Durkheim defined the nature of social facts. He laid down the rules for their observation. How will you observe social facts? Recognition of normal and pathological social facts. What is normal social fact and what is pathological social fact? Right? Durkheim wrote a book on suicide. He wanted to show its social aspect and tried to explain the social condition under which the suicide rates goes up. Suicide, anyone can say that suicide is an personal problem, right? It is related to individual, but according to Durkheim, suicide is not related to individual; it is related to society. Society is responsible for suicide, right? He worked on suicide and wrote a book, Suicide, right? He wanted to show the social aspect which are responsible for suicide in the society. He identified three types of suicide and said that each type had different causes. He tried to find out the types of the suicide. He identified the types of suicide and tried to explain the different causes responsible for different type of suicides. Right. In 1887, Durkheim began his career as a professor in University of Bordeaux. He started his career as a school teacher. In 1887, he moved to Bordeaux and started his career with the Bordeaux University. He published his book, The Division of Labor in Society, in 1893. So his first book is The Division of Labor, which was published in 1893 while he was working as a professor in Bordeaux University. The other books that he published in Bordeaux were The Rules of Sociological Method in 1895 and The Suicide in 1897. So it is very important. Remember the three books written by Durkheim. First is Division of Labor in the Society. It is published in 1893. The Rule of Sociological Method 1895 and Suicide in 1897. When you are a student of sociology, it is very important that you should remember the works of various sociologists, right? There are only hardly 3-4 books written by any of the sociologists. So Durkheim wrote Division of Labor in 1893, Rules of Sociological Method in 1895, and Suicide in 1897. In 1898, Emile Durkheim founded one of his first sociological journal in world, Les Années Sociologico. The name of the journal was Les Années Sociologico. Right, this was the biographical sketch of Emile Durkheim. The social context for emergence of sociology in Europe, why sociology emerged as a subject in Europe. The emergence of sociology as a scientific discipline can be traced the period of European history, which saw a tremendous social, political, and economical upheavals or changes because of the French Revolution and Industrial Revolution, right? Because of the French revolutions, there was hue and cry and upheaval in this society, in European society, and because of the Industrial Revolution, society was going under the change. This period of change in European society is known as the Enlightenment period. We discussed about Enlightenment period in our previous lectures, right? What is the Enlightenment period? Enlightenment period is when when society started thinking logically, rather than accepting whatever church is saying. They started thinking logically. That is Renaissance period of Renaissance or Enlightenment period. The roots of ideas such as belief that both nature and society can be studied scientifically As we know that natural sciences can be studied scientifically. Natural sciences, what are natural sciences? That physics, chemistry, biology, all these are the natural sciences, and we can study these sciences scientifically. Similarly, society can be studied scientifically. Why can be studied scientifically? Because human beings are essentially rational, and that society built on the rational principle will make human being realizes their infinite potential, and can be traced in development of science and commerce in Europe, right? This because of French Revolution, because of Industrial Revolution, a new outlook developed as a result of commercial revolution and scientific revolution, which was crystallized during the French and the Industrial Revolution. And this gave birth to sociology as a discipline. As they, because of the French Revolution, because of the Industrial Revolution, because of scientific revolution, commercial revolution, society was very unstable, right? Society was undergoing a change. There were upheavals in the society, and philosopher and sociologist want the stability in the society. They want to study society, right? So they want to develop a scientific method so that they can study society scientifically, and can help in stabilizing the society. And this gave birth to sociology as a discipline. There was increase in assertion of individual political rights and decrease in collective authority of the state because of the changes in the society, right? Individual political rights, everyone was giving emphasis on the individual rights rather than the collective authority of the states or the society, right? In 1871, the France was facing the political crisis, and there was decline in national unity. France worked towards the political consolidation by focusing on the social progress. Durkheim believed that sociological method could provide a solution to decay in moral order. That's what I explained you, that there was a decay in moral order, so they wanted something, they wanted a way so that the moral order can be restored, right? So they, every philosopher and sociologist want a stability in the society. So according to Durkheim, that there must be sociological method that could provide the solution to this problem, right? Intellectual influences on Durkheim's work. Durkheim provided social explanations for all phenomena. According to Durkheim, whatever happens in this society, there is a social explanation for all the social phenomena. There is a reason in this society why some changes happens in this society. The change for this, whatever the changes happens in the society is because of the it could be explained scientifically. Durkheim was a social realist as he visualized society as sui generis and having an existence prior to individual. As I told you that according to Durkheim, society is more important than the individual. Society is sui generis, self-generated. It doesn't depend, the society doesn't depend on the individual. Even prior to birth of the individual, society was there, and even after the death of an individual, society will be there. The thing will be whether individual is there in the society or whether he is not present in the society, but society will be there. So Durkheim was a social realist, and according to him, society is sui generis, it generate by itself. The society doesn't depend on individual, right? The society is more important than individual according to Durkheim. As per the utilitarian social theory advocated by John Stuart Mill and Jeremy Bentham, individuals were autonomous and were not restrained by the larger social rules, but Durkheim rejected this. According to Mill and Bentham, that individual is important, but according to Durkheim, society is important. According to Bentham and Mill, society exists because of the individual, but according to Durkheim, society is sui generated, right? Society doesn't depend on the individual. right? Society and individual are inseparable. There exists a social constraint on individual. Their actions are not strictly utilitarian. Means society and individual are inseparable. Even individual needs a society, and society needs an individual. And this society exerts a constraints on an individual, right? Durkheim believed that human action is not based on the common motive or driven towards the self-interest, but there is an external constraint that exists which led us to engage in certain action. According to Durkheim, that whatever we do, the common motive is not based on the self-interest, but it is because of the external constraint that exists, which lets engage in certain action. As we say. Since we say na, this is one should not do this is not good, one should do this, लोग क्या कहेंगे टाइप्स वाला जो चीज है ना, that's what he explained, that it is the external constraint which exerts the pressure on an individual, and it leads the individual to engage in certain action. What is accepted in the society and what is not, we do take care of this thing. We should do this is accepted in the society, we should not do this is not accepted in the society. So that's what Durkheim explained, right? And this led Durkheim to write the rules of sociological method. According to Durkheim, this social constraint influences the individual, and on the basis of this, he wrote a book, The Rules of Sociological Method. J.J. Ross had an influence on Durkheim's thought on morality and society, right? Durkheim was influenced by Ross' beliefs that there is a need for common social and moral rules that can keep society together, right? According to Durkheim, the common social and moral rules can keep the society together. So it is very important that there should be a common rules, that there should be a moral rules, so to keep the society together, right? So when we say this is accepted in the society, moral teaching, it is required to maintain society or to keep the society together. But he was not influenced or agree with Ross' individualist theory. Ross held that collective will draws from many individual wills, and therefore society in that sense emerges from the individual's will. So according to Ross, individual is important and society exists because of the individual. But on the other hand, Durkheim analyzed that morality in relation to society, right? So society is important. It is related to morality, is related to society, not to an individual, right? Hobbes, another sociologist or philosopher, held that individual contract out nature and paid emphasis on individual. Again, Hobbes, according to Montesquieu, individual is important than the society. But Durkheim held that constraint emerges from the collective and not the individual. That when there is a collective constraint, right? When the constraint emerges from the collective, means when a majority when the constraint emerges from the majority, right, then that is a constraint. But when it emerges from the individual, we cannot say that is a constraint. Means social constraint is important. When majority says that this is correct, so that is correct. When majority says this is not correct, according to Durkheim, then it is not correct. Society is important. That collectiveness is important. According to Herbert Spencer, it is individual who are engaged in self-interested acts who work towards maintaining a social whole. Again, according to Spencer, individual is important. Durkheim held that social integration is not the result of individual action, but shared sense of solidarity that keeps the society together. It is a shared sense of solidarity, right, that keeps the society together. So society is important, not an individual is important. So collectiveness or majority is important rather than the individual. In the book the rules of sociological method, Durkheim developed the methodological framework to study society. In his book, he developed a framework. How can you study society? He developed a methodological framework, right? Whenever you do research or study something, you should follow the methods, right? There is a methodological framework in his book, The Rule of Sociology to Study Society. He held that sociology is study of social fact as suicide rate, religious affiliation, moral rules, etc. Right? What is social fact? Social fact is nothing but the things, right? Things like beliefs, religious affiliations, morals, your thinking, even suicide rate. All these are the social facts. These social facts exercise a constraint upon the individual, right? These social facts exercises the constraint upon the individual. These morals, beliefs, exercise religion exercises the constraint of the individual. The ultimate social reality is the group and not the individual. This is the basic thing of Durkheim's work, that society or group is important, not the individual. The social reality is group, not the individual. The social facts are external and cannot be reduced to the individual facts, right? Scientists and influence on positivism. The term sociology was founded by the Auguste Comte in 1882. Auguste Comte is father of sociology. He has coined this term sociology in 1882, but in 1887, Durkheim instituted the study of sociology as academic discipline. The sociology term was coined by Auguste Comte, but as a discipline, Durkheim instituted the study of sociology as an academic discipline in 1887. Sociology could be established as a scientific discipline only when causal relations underlying the social activities could be studied. Right? According to Durkheim, you can establish a sociology as a scientific discipline when you can provide the reason, right, of sociological activities, when you can describe why something is happening in the society and how it is influencing the society, right? Karan ka siddhant, when you can explain this karan ka siddhant in society, then you can study the society in a scientific way, right? So it is very important that causal relationship underlying the social activities should be studied, and when you can generalize those causal relationship, then only you can say ki, yes, this change is happening in the society, or because of these factors, or these factors are responsible for changes in the society, right? As we all know that Durkheim was influenced by Montesquieu's idea that a science of society was concerned with exploration of facts rather than mere speculations. Rather than mere speculating, you should explore the facts. Saint Simon contributed an idea of science of society. Comte developed a method and ranked the various sciences as a positivistic and non-positivistic sciences. Right? Um, Comte has given a sequence, right? He has given a sequence. According to Comte, sociology is the most complicated subject. It is a positivistic science, right? And he has given a sequence. He has ranked the various sciences, right? And according to Comte, sociology is occupies the top rank, and sociology is a positivistic science, and few other subjects are non-positivistic. Because why it is positivistic and why sociology is at the top? Because sociology depends on many other subjects. Sociology depends on psychology, sociology depends on economics, sociology depends on philosophy, right? That's why we say ki sociology is a interdisciplinary subject, and it is a complex subject, it is a complicated subject. Durkheim held that society was sui generis and could be subjected to scientific investigation and could not be simply reduced to individuals composing it or to individual act, as it is sue generated society, because the society exists every time, whether individual is present in that society or individual is not there in this society. Before the birth of the individual of the society was there. Even after the death of the individual, society will be there. So it is you generated, and we could study society scientifically, because it could not depend simply on the individual's act, right? Durkheim was working towards establishing the status of sociology as a scientific discipline, separated from and not subsumed by philosophy. According to him, it is a different subject, right? In order to understand the evolution of society, they applied the comparative method to understand the causal laws in the simple and modern society. How one society evolved from another society. To understand this evolution of society, they applied the comparative methods, right? What were the reasons? What were the causal laws which leads to change of a simple society to the modern society? Functionalism. It is very important. Durkheim incorporated Comte's and Spencer's organic analogy in study of society. What is organic analogy? Organic analogy is as our body is made up of various organs, right? When the organs work together, right? When they work together, we can survive. Suppose if few of our organs or one of our organs stop working, will it be possible for us to live a normal life? No, we cannot live a normal life. It would be difficult for us to survive, right? So when all organs of our body work together, function together, function in coordination with one another, then only we can lead a normal life. This is organic analogy. And Durkheim incorporated the Comte's and Spencer's organic analogy in this society, in study of society. According to the Durkheim, the various institutions of the society, when they work together, then only society can function properly, right? The various, whether it's a religion, right? Whether it's education system or any other institution, whether it's a marriage or a family or a kinship, when they work together, when they work in coordination with each other, then only society can survive, right? When they will not work in coordination, it would be impossible for society to survive, right? So he applied the organic analogy to study of society, ki how one institution impacts the other institution of the society, right? And uh, how it helps in changing the society. The various parts of society are interrelated and work together to maintain a stable whole. Social integration is possible as all parts of society function to maintain a social whole. In simple societies, the beliefs and sentiments have greater constraining forces. In simple societies, what are simple societies? Simple society, there was not much division of labor, right? All work, everyone works in a similar manner. There was not much division of labor, but in that society, their beliefs and sentiment have a greater constraining forces, right? With the growth of population, society becomes more complex and tasks are differentiated. As the population grows, the society becomes complex and we divide the task. Then there will be division of labor, right? Division of labor means, as we all know, that in our houses we have divided our work, right? Basically, not always, but majority of times, we expect our moms to cook for us, We expect our father to earn for the to earn, and we expect children to study. This is the division of labor, right? There is a division of labor, right? Like educationist will provide education to the society, right? Preachers, religious teachers will describe about the religion, right? The barbers, carpenters, right? And then cobblers. This is the division of labor. As the society grew and the task then the tasks are differentiated, and this is division of labor, and it is more in complex societies rather than the simple society. The division of labor and specialization of tasks entails that individuals are dependent upon one another. Because of division of labor, we are more dependent on each other, right? Right? From to mend our shoes, we depends on the cobbler, right? Uh, then we depends on the barber to get the haircut. We depend on the barbers, right? So we are more dependent on each other, and similarly, those barbers and cobblers depends on the teachers so that for education of their children, right? Herbert Spencer typified society as simple and complex. Herbert Spencer divided the society into simple and compound, simple society and compound society, right? Division of labor in society. Emile Durkheim typified society on the basis of mechanical and organic solidarity. The division of labor exists in different sectors of society, and Durkheim did not limit his understanding to strictly economic exchange, right? So, division of labor exists in the different sectors of society, right? And division of labor is a social phenomenon and merits social explanation. This division of labor is a social phenomenon. It is related to economic exchange, but Durkheim didn't limit his understanding to economics only like Karl Marx. He limited his understanding to economics, but he didn't limit his understanding to economics only, right? Division of labor is related to economics, but division of labor is a social phenomenon according to Durkheim, and this has merits of social explanations, right? Durkheim held that solidarity can be expressed in two distinct ways, which is mechanical solidarity and organic solidarity. In small society with mechanical solidarity, individual autonomy is lowest and society is characterized by likeness and belief. In simple societies, in primitive societies like tribal society, right, there is a mechanical solidarity. What is mechanical solidarity? Mechanical solidarity means individual autonomy is lowest and society is characterized by likeness of belief. It is their beliefs, it is their ritual which decides everything in their society, in primitive society. If anyone deviate from those beliefs or society, the or from the majority from the collective consciousness, they punish that individual. So in primitive society, individual is not important. These beliefs and likeness, these beliefs, rituals are important, right? Collective consciousness is more important than the individual beliefs, right? Like in villages, we usually say na hamare gaon mein aisa hota hai types, right? Here is no specialization of task and very limited division of labor. Collective consciousness prevails amongst all individual in the group, right? As I told you, in primitive society, lesser division of labor and collective consciousness is there, right? Whatever majority decides, everyone else has to follow that, whether one agrees to that or not. So collective consciousness in primitive society matters a lot, and this collective consciousness plays an important role in mechanical solidarity. Mechanical solidarity is based on the collective consciousness, right? And what is organic solidarity? Organic solidarity is we'll discuss about organic solidarity in detail. But what is organic solidarity? In modern society, where there is a division of labor and one depend on the other for their tasks, when there is more interdependence in that type of society, organic solidarity is there, right? So it is because of the solidarity in the society is solidarity means ekta. Solidarity in the society is because of interdependence of person on one another, right? That is organic solidarity. Division of labor in society. In such a society, the institution of religion is dominant, and an individual's place in society is determined by the kinship. There is a system of penal law which punishes the crime violently so as to reaffirm the core beliefs and values. The law is repressive and severely punishes the offense. In primitive society, the law is repressive law and it severely punishes the offense. If someone deviates from the beliefs, as there is lesser division of labor, if in primitive society means say in tribal society, collective consciousness matters a lot because there is least division of labor or less division of labor. So if someone deviates from that collective consciousness, from the core beliefs, then they punish them. They punish for their offense, and the punishes crimes violently, and this law is repressive law. The individual are more dependent on one another for specialized function and leads to social cohesion and increase in individual autonomy, right? A restitutive law is operating in primitive society and aims at restoring the wrong to their original stage. Important thing is what type of law is operative in primitive society. So restitutive law is operating in primitive society. Durkheim held that in society there are social facts that are exercised or constrained on an individual. As I told you, what is social thing? What is social facts? Social fact is nothing but the things. It could be the institutions, it could be the beliefs, it could be the moral values, and these beliefs, these institutions, these moral values exercises a constraint on the individual, right? You cannot deviate from those beliefs, morals, and laws made by the various institutions. Durkheim wrote the role of sociological method because he wanted to develop a framework of methodological investigation for the subject matter method of sociology. What is social fact? Durkheim held that sociology as a scientific discipline should deal with the social fact, and these social facts are things in the society, right? These social facts are things in the society. He held that just as a natural fact, social facts will be external. What are the social fact? Things in the society: morale, beliefs, religion, institution, marriage, kinship. All these are the social facts. And these are the external. These facts will be external, right? This means that they will have an independent existence regardless of the beliefs or opinion that we may have about them. Despite of our feelings about my thinking as an individual about some belief, about some institution, hardly matters. They will have an independent existence, right? My thinking, my belief will not impact the social facts, right? They will have an independent existence. Social facts have existence outside the individual consciousness, that's what I told you, and have objective existence prior to an individual's birth. Therefore, they have an external existence and passed on from generation to generation. Social facts As I told you that it hardly matters what I think about a certain belief or about a certain institution, right? It is its existence is outside of the individual consciousness, right? And these social facts exist prior to my birth and will be there even after me, right? And these social facts will be passed from generation to generation, right? That the customs rituals passes from one generation to another generation. These custom belief rituals, yeah, all these are the social facts. The rules of sociological methods. Durkheim employed an organic analogy to study of society. I explained it to you few minutes back what is organic analogy and how Durkheim relate this organic analogy to study of society, and developed a criteria to distinguish between healthy and unhealthy society. On the basis of this analogy, he distinguished between the healthy society and unhealthy society. According to Durkheim, social phenomenon is said to be normal when it is generally distributed throughout the society and also occurs in the other societies under general conditions. Social phenomena is normal when distributed throughout the society, means majority accepts that phenomenon, right? A majority agrees to that phenomenon, then that social phenomenon according to Durkheim is a healthy phenomenon or a normal phenomenon, right? And and that phenomenon even exists in other societies. And a social phenomenon is said to be the pathological or abnormal if it deviates from the phenomenon that is generally diffused in the society, right? If we deviate from the general phenomenon, then that is pathological phenomenon. If society believes in a certain thing, right, in a certain institution, right, and if society feels this is right, this is sin, and this is good for the society, this is good or this is bad, that is when majority accepts it that this doing this thing is a good and this is not good, then that is a normal phenomenon, right? And when anyone deviates from that normal phenomenon, then that is a pathological phenomenon. If I don't agree to something, if majority agrees to some point and I don't agree, or few people don't agree to something, then when a majority agrees to something, that is a normal phenomenon. And when a bunch of a people or when a few groups don't agree to that phenomenon, then that is a pathological phenomenon. What is suicide? Durkheim held that suicide could not be explained by individual or the psychological factor, but should be explained by analyzing the link between the social institution and individual. Right? As I told you earlier, according to Durkheim, whatever happens in the society is because of the some changes in the society, or whatever happens in the individual's life is because of the society. According to Durkheim, suicide is not a psychological factor, right? And it can be explained by analyzing the link between the social institution and individual, right? Social institution plays an important role in suicide. He held that rate of suicide in society is related even in crime, right? He held that rate of suicide in society is related to other social institutions like marriage, family, and religious institution. He therefore studied suicide collectively rather than individually. Right? What forces an individual to commit suicide? Right, he wanted to study that. According to Durkheim, there are certain phenomenon which forces individuals to commit suicide. It could be marriage, it could be family, it could be religious institution, it could be economic factors, or it could be any other factor, social factor, right? The suicide is not a psychological factor. The society is responsible for suicide according to Durkheim. Durkheim explained various forms of suicide by looking at how individuals are able to develop bonds in the society and how individuals are regulated by the society. So he developed various forms of the society, and these forms are based on the basis of the bonds of an individual with the society and the regulation by the society, right? How individual is related to the society and how society regulates the individual, right? So he explained the various forms of the suicide. He described egoistic, altruistic suicide. The two forms, there are the four forms of the suicide. The first form is egoistic form of the suicide. Second is altruistic suicide. Egoistic and altruistic suicide by referring to the level of social integration of individual, because he explained the various form on the basis of a bond of an individual with the society. So according to him, egoistic suicide and altruistic suicide is based on the level of social integration of the individual. And third, anomic and fatalistic suicide is based on the level of social regulation of individuals. So there are the two conditions for the suicide, that is social integration and social um, regulation. So he described the four forms of the suicide. Two form is one first form is egoistic form of the suicide and altruistic form of the suicide. These form of the suicides are related to the integration of an individual to the society, and anomic and fatalistic suicide is related to the regulation of individual, level of social regulation of an individual, societal regulation. Egoistic suicide results from the absence of social bonds and loosening of attachment of individual to group in the society. When one is not attached to the society, right, that type of society is known as egoistic suicide. There is absence of social bonds. Altruistic suicide, in which individuals are excessively integrated in its society and give up their life for society, that is altruistic suicide. Egoistic suicide, when one gives up their life because of the absence of social bonds of an individual with the society. And altruistic suicide, one gives up the life because of the excessive integration with the society, right? When someone commits suicide for the betterment of the society, that is altruistic suicide. This rem- uh, this that uh, suicide committed by the student during Mandal commission is altruistic type of suicide. Anomic suicide. Anemic suicide is which occurs when there is weakening of social regulation in times of economic prosperity or hardship. There may be increase in level of anemic suicide, like during the corona, many committed suicide because of loss of their job or because of their business losses, right? So this type of suicide is anemic suicide. It happens because of weakening of social regulation, especially in times of economic prosperity or hardship. Fatalistic suicide. Fourth type of suicide is fatalistic suicide, which occurs when individuals are excessively regulated by the society. Durkheim explained this type of suicide by referring a case of suicide by the slaves when excessively regulated by the society. So, four forms of suicide. First is egoistic suicide, second is altruistic suicide, third is anemic suicide, and fourth is fatalistic suicide. First two types of suicide is just because of the bonding of an individual with the society, and anemic and fatalistic suicide is because of the regulation of the uh, societal norms or societal regulation. I hope this is clear to you. Now, collective consciences. This is one of the important concept of Durkheim. According to Durkheim, the collective consciences in the body of belief, practices, and common sentiment held throughout the society. It gives a social purpose and structural social life. Collective consensus means when majority of people agrees to something. When majority of people agrees to something, then it becomes the beliefs, it becomes the practices and common sentiments. The collective consensus is characterized by the likeness of moral and mental sentiments. The collective consensus is different from individual consensus. It is diffused throughout the society. The collective consensus has role in maintaining social solidarity and also connected with different generation to each other. Right? What is the role of this collective consensus? The role of this collective consensus is maintaining the social solidarity. Religion and manifestation of social. The elementary form of religious life was published in 1912. He propounded, no, okay, published in 1912. He propounded a scientific study of religion based on the observation and exploration. He studied the religion scientifically. He observed and explored the religion scientifically, and then he wrote the elementary form of religious life. For Durkheim, religion helped people to make sense of the world, and religion personifies the society. He held that religion is made up of beliefs and rituals. Beliefs for Durkheim were the ideas that were focused towards the sacred. Durkheim has given the two concepts, sacred and profane and sacred, right? So for Durkheim, beliefs were the ideas which were focused towards the sacred, pavitra. Ritual on the word, the actions that were directed towards the sacred. Rituals are sacred, beliefs are sacred. He held that universally the religious worldview is divided into two domains, that is sacred and profane. Sacred and profane, he divided the religious view into two domains, sacred and profane. Beliefs and rituals are sacred according to profane. Shuddh, Ashuddh, right? Sacred is Shuddh and profane is not pure. Pure, not pure, right? Sacred and profane, pure and not pure. Ritual beliefs are pure, and there are certain things which are impure. Things, belief or acts are sacred because they believe to be sacred by this society, right? In our next lecture, we'll discuss about social facts in details. We'll discuss the unit 6 of BSOC 133, the social facts in detail, right? Today, we discussed about social fact, about the types of society, about the religious work done by the Durkheim, right? We discussed about the biographical sketch of the Durkheim, and we discussed about the influences on the Durkheim. So let me summarize. Durkheim, according to Durkheim, society is important than individual. Society is sue-generated. Society exists prior to individual and will exist after the individual. He has given the concept of sacred and profane. According to Durkheim, in primitive society, mechanical solidarity exists, and in modern society or complex society, organic solidarity exists. In complex society, there is division of labor, and in complex society and in primitive society, there is not much division of labor, right? Durkheim explained various types of society. According to Durkheim, the society is responsible for suicide. It is not an individual who is responsible for suicide. And So, Durkheim played an important role because it is because of an efforts of the Durkheim sociology we are able to study sociology as an academic discipline or as a subject. I hope this is clear to you. That's all for today. Thank you very much. Namaskar.